Jnanakosha, Puranas.
सर्गच्च प्रतिसर्गच्च वंशो मन्वन्तराणि च वंशानुचरितं चैव पुराणं पञ्चलक्षणम्.
Agni Purana, Dhanurveda. Dhanurveda is on arms and weapons. There are 5 types of weapons that are used in war. The first category is that of Yantra Mukta weapons released from a machine yantra. This machine may be a launcher or even a bow. The second category is that of Panimukta weapons, weapons that are flung by the hand. Examples are spears and stones. The third category is known as Mukta Sandharita. These are weapons that can be flung and also withdrawn. The fourth category consists of weapons like swords that are never released from the hand during battle. These are known as Amukta weapons. And the last category of weapons consists of brute force and strength. This is of use in bouts of wrestling. The best form of fighting is that with bows and arrows. Next comes fighting with spears, followed by fighting with swords. Wrestling is the worst form of fighting. Before aiming, the bow dhanusha should be held with the arch pointing down towards the earth. The arrow vana should be placed against the bow with the head pointing down. The bow should now be raised and the lower end of the bow should be in line with the archer's navel. The quiver should be at the back. Before releasing the arrow, the bow should be held firm with the left hand and the arrow with the fingers of right hand. The string of the bow should be pulled back such that the tassel of the arrow is between the archer's ear and right eye. The body should not be bent when one is releasing an arrow, nor should one get excited. The archer has to be still as a pillar. The target has to be in line with the left fist, and the archer's posture has to be like that of a triangle. It is best to pull back the string of the bow up to the right ear. A noose pasha is 10 arms in length, with both ends of the weapon being circular. The main body of the weapon is made of rope. There are 11 different ways in which a noose may be held. A noose must always be flung with the right hand. A sword must hang to the left of the waist. When a sword is to be taken out, the scabbard should be grasped in the left hand and the sword should be taken out with the right hand. There are 32 different ways in which a sword and a shield may be held. Property. What happens to a person's debts when he dies? If he does not have any sons, the person who inherits the property also inherits the debts and had to pay them off. If there is a son, the son pays the debts off. But a woman is not to be held responsible for debts contracted by her husband or her son, nor is a man responsible for debts contracted by his wife or son. Exceptions are instances where a husband and a wife contract a debt jointly. If there are no witnesses to a contracted debt, but the king feels that the debt was indeed contracted, the king must arrange for the debt to be repaid within a period of 64 days. In cases of a dispute, the person who brings a false suit will be punished by the king, and a false witness will be given twice the punishment that is meted out to the one who brings a false suit. A Brahmana who bears false witness will be banished from the kingdom. A person who agrees to be a witness but later withdraws will be punished 8 times as much as the bringer of the false suit. A Brahman who does this will be banished from the kingdom. It is better that the details of a debt contracted be written down with the names of the two parties and the witnesses clearly indicated. If the debtor pays in installments, the details of all such payments must be recorded on the written document. Debts made in the presence of witness should also be repaid in the presence of witness. If a witness has to take an oath, the oath should be administered after cotton, fire, water, or poison has been placed on the head of the witness. Fire or water can be used to find out if a person is lying or not. If fire is used, 7 banyan leaves are placed on the accused hand. A red hot lump of iron is then placed on the hand, and the accused had to go around a fire 7 times. If it is found that the hand has not been burned, the person has been telling the truth, and if the hand has been burned, he had been lying. Similarly, an accused person can be immersed in the water, and if he does not drown, he has been telling the truth. Alternatively, the accused can be made to drink poison. If the poison does him no harm, he is truthful. If the father makes a will, the property will be divided among the sons in accordance with the provisions of the will. But if all the sons get an equal share of the property, the wife should also be given an equal share, otherwise the father can leave all his property to the eldest son. The sons and the father obtain equal shares to any property or debt that has been left by the grandfather. But the sons are not necessarily entitled to any property that has not been left by the grandfather but been earned by father. If a son is born after the property has been divided, he too will be entitled to an equal share of any property left by the grandfather. Daughters are not entitled to property, but sons who have gone married will use 1/4 of their inherited property to get their sisters married. Donating the Puranas. The Agni Purana now describes the benefits of giving alms along with the Puranas. The Puranas are to be donated together with cows, and in taking out the Mahapurana, the Agni Purana also mentions most of their length in terms of the number of shlokas, couplets that each has. This is worth stating. The Brahma Purana is 25,000, the Padma Purana is 12,000, the Vishnu Purana is 13,000, the Vayu Purana is 14,000, the Bhagavata Purana is 18,000, the Narada Purana is 25,000, the Markandeya Purana is 9,000, the Agni Purana is 12,000, the Brahma Vaivarta Purana is 18,000, the Linga Purana is 11,000, the Varaha Purana is 14,000, the Skanda Purana is 84,000, the Vama Purana is 10,000, the Kurma Purana is 8,000, the Matsya Purana is 13,000, the Garuda Purana is 8,000, the Brahma and Purana is 12,000. The only Mahapurana which is missing from the above list is the Bhavishya Purana. You now have a pretty good idea of how long the Puranas are. The Skanda Purana is the longest and the Kurma and Garuda Purana is the shortest. But unfortunately, the numbers in the Agni Purana are not terribly accurate. The Padma Purana has 55,000 couplets and not 12 as stated. The Varaha Purana has 24,000 couplets and not 14,000. The Agni Purana itself has slightly over 15,000 couplets and not 12,000. But at least you have some appropriate idea about the lengths of the various Puranas. The Brahma Purana is to be given in the month of Vaisakha. The Padma Purana is to be donated in the month of Jyeshtha. The Vishnu Purana is to be donated in the month of Ashada, and the Vayu Purana in the month of Shravana. The Bhagavad Purana is to be given in the month of Bhadra, the Narada Purana in the month of Ashwina, the Markandeya Purana in the month of Kartika, the Agni Purana in the month of Margasira, and the Bhavishya Purana in the month of Pausha. The Brahma Vaivarata Purana in the month of Pausha. The Brahma Vaivarata Purana is for the month of Magha, the Linga Purana for the month of Falguna, and the Varaha Purana for the month of Chitra. The Skanda Purana is to be given to Brahmins. The Vamana Purana is to be given in the autumn. The Kurma Purana is to be given together with the golden urn. The Matsya Purana is to be donated together with a golden swan. The Brahmanda Purana is to be given to Brahmins. Great benefits are also to be derived from hearing the Puranas recited. The reciter has to be given alms, and the Brahmanas must be given cows, rice, and land at the time of the recitation. If one arranges for a recitation of the Puranas, one lives long, stays healthy, and attains heaven. Dynasties. Brahma was born from Vishnu's navel. Brahma's son was Marichi, Marich's son Kashyapa, and Kashyapa's son Viswavan. From this line was descended Pururuva, and Pururuva's descendants were the kings of the Surya, solar dynasty. Brahma also had a son named Atri, and Atri had a son named Soma. Soma performed Rajasuya Yajna, royal sacrifice. Having performed the sacrifice, Soma became the ruler of the world. This made him very arrogant, and he abducted the sage Brihaspati's wife Tara. This led to a terrible war between the Devas and the Asuras. Tara was eventually restored to Brihaspati, but Soma and Tara had a son named Buddha. From Buddha were descended the kings of the Chandra lunar dynasty. There were 12 major wars between the Devas and the Asuras. The first of these was known as the Narasimha War. This took place when Hiranyakashipu was the king of the Asuras. Vishnu adopted the form of Narasimha and killed Hiranyakashipu. He then made Prahalada the king of the demons. The second war was the Vamana War, and it took place when Bali was the king of the demons. Vishnu adopted the form of dwarf to subjugate the demons. The third war was the Varaha War, and this took place when Hiranyaksha was the king of the demons. Vishnu adopted the form of the wild boar and killed Hiranyaksha. The fourth war of the Amrita Manthana was war, and this took place over the Manthana churning in the ocean of Amrita. The fifth war between the Devas and the Asuras took place over the abduction of Tara, and this came to be known as the Tarakamaya War. The sixth war was known as the Ajivaka War. The seventh war took place when Tripura led the Asuras, and this was known as the Tripuraghatana War. It was Shiva who killed the demon Tripura in the war. The eighth war, the Andhaka War, took place when Andhaka led the Asuras. It was Vishnu who enjoined that Andhaka be killed when Andhaka expressed a desire to abduct Shiva's wife. The ninth war was known as Vritrasa Mahara and took place when Vritra led the demon. The 10th war was simply known as Dita. In this war, Vishnu killed Shalva and other demons, and Parashura killed the evil Kshatriyas. The 11th war was known as Halahala. An asura named Halahala poison had invaded Shiva's body and flooded it with poison, but Vishnu managed to destroy the demon. In the 12th war, known as Kolahala, Vishnu destroyed an asura named Kolahala. Medicine. Dhanvantari was the physician of the gods, and he taught Shruta the art of Ayurveda. The Agni Purana now describes that the sage Sushruta had learned, that is, the treatment of the various diseases. This does not simply mean the treatment of human illness. There is a section known as Vriksha Ayurveda which describes that what trees are to be planted where. It describes how a garden is to be constructed and maintained. The chapters on the medicine also describe the treatment of elephant, horses, and cattle. The mantras, incantations, which are the remedy for snake poison, is also related. Literature and grammar. Thereafter, the Agni Purana has many chapters on literature and grammar. It describes the different types of chanda, meters that are used in poetry. Next, it discusses the alphabet. There are 64 letters, varna in the alphabet, of which 21 are vowels, swaravarna. There are 3 tones, swaras, in which the letters of the alphabet may be uttered. Their names are Uddata, Anudata, and Swarita. There are 8 places from which the letters may be pronounced. These are the chest, the throat, the head, the back of the tongue, the teeth, the nose, the lips, and the palate. Pronunciation should be clear and audible. They should not be nasal and mumbled. The Agni Purana then discusses the alankaras that are used in poetry and plays. Poetry is entirely different from the Shastras and Itihasas. The sacred texts are full of words, and historical texts are full of narrations of incidents that took place. But that does not constitute poetry. Real men are different to find on this earth. Among these real men, it is difficult to find who men are learned. Among the learned men, it is not easy to find some who have a poetic sense, and amongst those who have poetic sense, it is difficult to find a few who can compose poetry. Poetry is impossible without a knowledge of the rules of the poetry, and even more important, without a sense of feeling. Sanskrit is the language of gods. The language of humans is Prakrita. Poetry can be either in Sanskrit or in Prakrita. There are 3 types of poetry. These are Gadya, prose, Padya. Poetry are Mishra, a mixture of the two. Genuine poetry is, however, only Padya. Gadya can be of 3 types: Chornaka, Uttalika, and Vritagandhi. Chornaka prose is easy on the ears. It has very few compound words. Uttalika prose is hard on the ears. It is full of compound words. Vritagandhi prose is somewhere between Chornaka and Uttalika. An epic must always be split up into sections. It has to be written in Sanskrit, although some mixture of Sanskrit words with Prakriti ones is permissible. The theme of an epic must always be good, and historical elements may be introduced if the author so desires. Literature is useless without the flavor of sentiments. There are 9 sentiments that are used. The first is Hasya, the second is Karuna Rasa, the third is Raudra Rasa, the fourth is Veera Rasa, the fifth is Bhayanak Rasa, the sixth is Bibhasha Rasa, the seventh is Adbhuta Rasa, the eighth is Shanta Rasa, and the ninth is Sringara Rasa. But the sentiments must be used with feeling. Without feeling, all literature becomes mediocre. Particularly in a play, sentiments can be supplemented with skills. These skills are normally associated with women, and there are 64 of them. The more important ones are singing, playing musical instruments, dancing, acting, drawing, making garlands, sewing, hairdressing, and using magic. Grammatical rules of Sandhi and Samasa, rules for forming compound words, are next described. The difference between the two is that in Sandhi, the 2 words that are being joined retain their original sense in the compound word. The case of Samasa is different. Sandhi occurs when two varnas met. Samasa is a condensation or conversation of two or more words into one. Sandhi does not create any new word. Samasa leads to the formation of a third word which refers to something related to but distinct from either or any of the words combined. Pita, yellow, and ambara cloth combined by way of sandhi are pronounced pitambara and mean cloth that is yellow. The same two words combined by way of samasa results in the third word pitambara, which means the one dressed in yellow, that is Krishna. There are several possible declensions of words depending on the vachana and the vibhakti. The vachana refers to the number. Ekavachana is when there is only one. Dvivachana when there are two. And Bahuvachana when there are more than two. There are three genders: Pamalinga, Strilinga, Pulinga, Strilinga, and Klivalinga. Deva, Ashura, Vishnu are, for example, masculine in gender. Devi, Kalika, or Maya are feminine. Pushpa, flower, or Phala are neuter. There are 6 karakas, cases, and 7 vibhaktis. The agent who performs the action indicated by the kriya is the Khatri or doer. To the Khatri, karaka or nominative case, the Prathama Vibhakti or first case ending is attached. The object of the action is karma, and to the karma karaka or objective case, the second Dvitiya case ending is attached. The means or instruments by which the action is performed takes on the Karana Karaka or instrumental cases and the third case ending. When a gift is given irrevocably, the recipient takes on the Sampradhana Karaka or dative case, and the case ending in question is the fourth. That which is the source of something takes on the Apadana Karaka or ablative case and the fifth Panchami case ending. When there is a relation of possessions, the possessor takes on the Shashti Vibhakti. There is no counterpart of the possessive case of English grammar because the relation of possession is not directly related to the verb and therefore to the doer. In case of the location in which the action takes place, the Karaka is Adhikarana and the case ending the 7th Saptami. Destruction. Periodically, pralayas take place. A destruction comes at the end of the 4,000 yugas on earth. For 100 years, there are no rains and there is a widespread drought. Thereafter, Vishnu uses the rays of the sun to drink and dry up all the waters that there are on earth. 7 different suns appear in the sky and they burn up the 3 worlds of heaven, the earth and the underworld. The earth becomes as flat as the back of the turtle. The breath of the great snake also serves to burn up the 3 worlds. After the 3 worlds have been burned up, dark clouds full of thunder and lightning appear in the sky. For 100 years it continued to rain. The rain puts out the fires that have been raging. From Vishnu's breath are created tremendous winds, and these drive away the clouds. But there is water everywhere, and Vishnu sleeps on these waters. For an entire kalpa he sleeps. The sages then pray to Vishnu for the 3 worlds to be created yet again, Yama and Hell. When human beings die, their physical bodies are given up, but they acquire new bodies that are known as Ativahika bodies. In these bodies, they are brought to Yama's abode by Yama's servant. Living beings other than human are not brought to Yama. Yama then decides whether the dead person should go to heaven or to hell. After he has served his time, in heaven or in hell, he is born again. Yama further decides what living being the person should be born as, depending on the actions in his past life. And so the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth goes on and on. Since he keeps tally of all good deeds and all sins, Yama is also known as the god Dharma. Those who have done good deeds are rewarded by Yama, and those who have committed sins are punished. Chitragupta is Yama's accountant. He keeps the account of all punya and papa. There are 28 circles of hells, with many hells located in each circle. A sinner may have to go to more than one hell depending on the sins that he has committed. Some sinners are boiled in oil, others are pierced with spears, and still others are whipped. Some sinners are fed heated iron balls, others are fed blood and rubbish. There are also machines for torturing sinners. Terrible birds eat up some sinners, other sinners have their heads cut off. What it is time to be reborn. The killer of a Brahmana is born as a deer, dog, pig, or camel. A drunkard is born as a donkey. A stealer of gold is born as a worm or an insect. A killer of a Brahman may also suffer from tuberculosis. A drunkard will have teeth like a dog, and a stealer of gold will malform nails. A stealer of food is born dumb. A person who has stolen the property of Brahmans is born as a Rakshasa and lives alone in the forest. A stealer of fragrant scents is born as a mole. One who steals food grains is born as a rat. One who steals animals is born as a goat. One who steals milk as cow. One who steals fruit as monkey. And one who steals meat as a vulture. A stealer of clothes is born as a crane, and a stealer of salt as a cricket.